Good evening. Welcome to Epiphany Lutheran Church in Richmond, Virginia. I'm Kevin Barger, Director of Music Ministry, and this is our Music Minute, where we take a look at the hymns for tomorrow that we'll be using in worship on the third Sunday of Advent. And we're going to go in reverse order. Well, actually, we're going to mix it up a little bit. So we're going to start with the sending hymn, which is Joy to the World. And this is actually not a Christmas hymn. You've heard me say this before. It's also actually not an Advent hymn, which is where it appears in the hymnal. It is actually based on Psalm 98, and it could be used most any time. But it does lend itself to somewhere in between Advent and Christmas. And the tune is joined with the words that we sing. That tune was not joined with those words until more than 100 years after the words were written. And it was thought to be an arranged combination of bits and pieces of glory to God and comfort ye from the Messiah. And so that is the attribution to Handel. And so this is a very jazzy version of Joy to the World. So, very jazzy and borrowed from Music Minute, which you'll hear again on Christmas Eve. Then we're going to move to the gathering hymn, People Look East. And this comes to us from the Oxford Book of Carols. It is very rich in imagery. You'll hear love compared as the guest, the rose, the star, and the Lord. And every peak and valley are humming through the imagery in this. The author of the text wrote Morning Has Broken, that same text. So there's a connection there. She was a big children's writer, and she was rich with imagery and imagination in her writing. The words were set to a French carol tune, and that tune was named for the city in eastern France where it originated. So this will be People Look East. And just a side note, since we are now live streaming and we have all these things that we have to do as a broadcast, the gathering of permissions for this might rank up there as one of the hardest we've had to do. We actually had to do some wiring to London this week in order to get permission to be able to do this and sing it in worship tomorrow. So People Look East as we move over to the organ. So you can hear the little tinkling chime sounding things in that one. That's the Zimbelstern. And it's actually a little round looking thing that has bells on it. It spins around and the bells then cause it to be hit. It's up in there, if you remember back when we toured the organ pipes. So that's where that sits. And then our hymn of the day tomorrow is Awake, Awake, and Greet the New Morn. And this is a Marty Haugen tune. We've done several of his, as you might remember. And the interesting story on this was written back in 1982, and the Haugen family had decided that they were going to give non-material gifts to one another. And so Marty Haugen had his aunt that was his chosen person that they drew. And so he wrote this hymn for her as a Christmas gift that year. So that's where it came from. It was originally written and intended to be a Christmas hymn. However, what he found later on as he went through was there's really more room and more need for Advent hymns. So he changed a few things and made it work so that it can go for Advent as well, which is what we're doing here on this third Sunday of Advent. The tune, as many things that Marty Haugen has done, was intended that it could be a variation of guitar or organ when it's used. And he's done that many times that you've heard in what we're doing as we do those things. So this is a festival chorale, so you'll hear sort of a pretty solid melody that's very block chordal kind of thing, and then it moves to a toccata, which is the flourishing kind of thing, and the melody will move to the pedal. So festive chorale and toccata on Awake, Awake, and Greet the New Morn. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed that. Maybe you learned a thing or two, and we look forward to wrapping up Advent next week with the fourth Sunday. And if you're joining us in person tomorrow, 8:30 and 11 o'clock in the sanctuary, on live streaming is at 11 o'clock. And just remember, for Christmas Eve, if you are planning to come, please know that you do need to sign up. We have limited capacity for those services. However, there are 6 services for you to choose from. Some of those are full already, but do go check and see which one works best for your schedule. Thanks. We look forward to seeing you again next week.